Out of the gates, ready to go. OutKick 360 is back. Alongside Chad Withrow and Paul Kuharski, I'm Jonathan Hutton, Lance Lee, Jacob Swanson. David Reed is back in the building with us. Becca Risley and Sleepy Danny down the hall making the show happen for us. Sarah Triplett, our production assistant. Glad you're with us. And we hope you're with us on YouTube, on the new OutKick 360 YouTube channel. You can go subscribe there. Subscribe and then hit the alert button. Ring that bell so that you're alerted every time we go live, like just right now, noon Eastern, 11 a.m. Central. And anytime we post new content to the channel, you'll get that alert as well by ringing the bell after subscribing. Just search out OutKick 360 channel on YouTube. If you have an Amazon device, you can search out through Alexa. Say, hey, Alexa, search OutKick 360 on YouTube. It'll pop up for you there. And you can find us across all of the podcast platforms, where we kick off today's show with an excellent review. We invite you to give us a rating, a review, and subscribe to any of the podcast platforms that you prefer, because we're available everywhere. And guys, before I see how things are going this morning, check out this review that we had recently, where I believe they gave us 5 stars. They did. Much like the cinematic masterpiece, The Program, this trio has produced a podcast experience packed with sex, violence, and illicit drugs, in addition to the occasional sports talk. A non-stop 90-minute thrill ride.
I want to issue a personal challenge. Can you top this in reviewing us? I would like you to go to Apple, and I would like you to offer us a review, and I would like you to top this. That's my challenge.
I want you to offer something to the person who tops that, too. We need to come up with an offer. Like, that is so good, and it's going to be so difficult to top with the reference to the 90-minute thrill ride and the program.
Like offering a prize? Is that like
well, there are going to be doubters who think we set this up. David Reed came in. We haven't seen David Reed in a week. And said, have you seen the program review on the podcast? And we were like, oh God, here comes a 1-star review. And he shows the 5-star review.
I feel like Reed would be more, he would have more urgency about telling us a bad review than a good one. So we're all me like, oh gosh, what did they say about my shoes?
I'm fearful.
What did they say about Hutton's beard? What happened? Paul's bald.
Yeah. I'm fearful of offering a payola situation.
It's not payola. I'm saying this is more of a reward for being clever. It's not, I want to see someone top that, because that's so good. And if it comes close to topping it, how about this? We'll show it on the show. If you can write and give us such a clever review, then we'll actually, just like we did today, show it on the show.
I feel like we can say this as we broadcast live across the OutKick OTT network on May the 18th. Screw payola and screw Nielsen ratings.
No, we're not a part of it anymore. Paul, are you aware of some rule that we can't?
No, but it's unseemly to say if you give us a good review, I will give you something, whether it's payola or not.
I didn't say give us a good review. We said top that review. It can be clever. If you like us, then you're involved in this. I'm not saying go give us the worst review possible and you're going to win something. I'm saying get clever with your review, and if they're good, we'll read them on air and give you something, possibly.
We'll give you an OutKick hat.
Paul's very opposed to gifts. Gifts to the people. Paul's opposed to
we'll give you OutKick stuff. We'll give you OutKick stuff.
We'll find it. We'll give you the OutKick 360
So enthusiastic. Paul, we'll give you OutKick stuff. We'll give you OutKick stuff.
I think it's unseemly.
Can I do something that's not unseemly?
Yes, please do.
Paul's very uncomfortable to start the show, so I'm going to make him more comfortable right now by wishing my daughter, Everly Gwen Withrow, a happy 6th birthday. She is having a big day. There were donuts delivered to her kindergarten class. She graduates kindergarten on Thursday, and she makes me laugh every day. So happy birthday, Evie, as she turns 6.
Love you, Evie. Congrats.
Happy birthday, Evie. And I love your pre-pitch, your at-bat routine.
Fierce.
Keep that up. Keep that up.
We'll have to show it at some point.
You have to be extremely proud when she gets to the plate, and she bangs hats when she gets to the plate.
Well, it's funny because even if she swings and misses at the first pitch, all the opposing coaches are like, whoa. Every time when she gets there, like, all right, let's back it up a little bit. This girl means business the way she's swinging, because she takes some cuts. When
Get
she
back
gets
to the fence. Back up.
Yeah, it's a very, remember Nomar Garcia Parra had like all the stuff.
They all do it.
Hers
now.
is less
Band
annoying than that
Velcro.
and doesn't take as long.
Yeah.
But it's every bit as intense, and she does the exact same thing every time. The one that she does 2 warm-up swings when she gets up there, so it's tough to know for the pitcher to know when she's ready, because she's going to give you 2 hard cuts before she's ready to bat. It's fun to watch, though.
Not fun to watch the Atlanta Braves right now.
No.
Or that pitch to the face last night
goodness.
from
Get some control.
Oh,
Come on.
Webb hitting Pilar in the nose. How many fractures?
it just says multiple nasal fractures.
Yeah, it's like 4 or 5 is what I saw the tweet. It's crazy.
He tweeted out he was okay, which was remarkable.
Well,
tweet.
alive.
he's okay in that. Yeah,
Not
not
dead.
in serious condition or critical condition right now, but he's going to have reconstructive surgery, I'm guessing, on his nose because it shattered his nose, the pitch. It was bad.
What has Webb said?
I don't know if he said anything.
Yeah,
The Braves bullpen
His
is bad.
reaction
I mean,
said
there's
it all. It
no-
looked like he's about to throw up.
Yeah,
on the
there's
mound.
no way around it. Like, it was clearly a mistake by him.
Yeah.
I mean, this is a guy who, in 2 back-to-back games, forgot to cover home plate because he was mad and frustrated after a wild pitch and allowed runs to score.
Simon's
because of
got a
that.
kid like that on his team.
Yeah,
He's 11.
This kid needs to be in the minor leagues, quite frankly, and that's the position the Braves are in right now. So they're not very good.
He's just all over the place whenever he's into the game. Whenever Webb's on the mound, the Braves are losing. That's what I've seen in the 3 or 4 games over the last 2 weeks where I've seen him come in relief.
The Braves are in tread water mode. Hutton, I told you this before the show. Tread water until the All-Star break. Get some guys back healthy. Now, Huascar Inoa, who was their biggest surprise this year, breaks his hand punching the dugout because he's angry.
Another sign
in
of maturity.
Sunday's game. Yeah, there's some issues going on there. So, and the Yankees are a very mature team.
Well, they're not punching walls and breaking
Yeah,
hands.
that's true.
They're,
that-
and they're not hitting people in the face. So on those 2 things, I would say
Paul,
they're more mature.
it's not a
team.
maturity issue, it's a control issue.
Well-
maturity issue is when the Marlins throw at Ronald Acuna because he's beating them.
I think
That's a
control-
maturity issue.
I-
or half the teams in Major League Baseball who like to throw at
I
Acuna.
think controls is a maturity issue.
It's not a
You
maturity
get more
issue. It's a
mature and you
control
gain
issue.
control.
No. You think it's a maturity issue if a guy goes out there and just he's not very accurate? That's not maturity. It's a problem. that
Either
he
you're
should-
not good enough and you don't belong there, or you
He-
gain control
I'm
because
telling
you become
you, he
more
doesn't
mature.
belong there, but
All right,
they
well, get
don't
him out.
have anyone else.
Get him out.
Well, you got to have an arm. I mean, you're going to have to pitch someone. Bring a position player up there to throw gas on the fire.
I don't know. I just don't want to see anyone dead, Chad. That's all.
I don't either.
we haven't.
I'm shocked though. You don't want to see a Met dead. Thought you'd be okay with that of all the teams.
It hurt him lower.
Paul, he tweeted out that he's fine.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah,
You don't have to be fearful of this.
he's
He's
gonna be
okay.
fine.
He's
The
alive.
next time somebody could die.
Somebody could die.
These things
again,
happen. Look, I hate to see it.
Someone could get struck by lightning while they play in the rain.
This is a totally different story if it was a retaliation pitch on something. The kid was clearly distraught about it and did not mean to do it and feels terrible. So I'm not going to
he
sit
looked like he
here.
was about to throw
I'm not
up
going to sit here and
watching.
bury the guy and say he's got maturity issues because if he threw at his face, he's got maturity issues and should get a suspension. But he didn't. So I feel bad for the situation.
Now, the real question is, will we see them throw at Acuna tonight?
Well, and then if they hit him in the face, then that's maturity issues. Right? We can go back and forth. You hit him in the
begin the game.
back, that's one thing.
Yeah.
We were saying the Yankees should send a message to the Astros on that front, so we'll see. I'm done talking about the Braves.
Does Evie have her
They're bad.
birthday present yet?
Evie has 3 birthday presents. She opened this morning. Yeah, and she's got some her grandparents coming in
She pleased.
this week.
Yeah, was she pleased?
She's fired up.
Very
She's got a
pleased.
weekend
Oh, okay.
festival.
She got some shoes that I actually think the name of the shoes
Go
is
on.
pretty clever. They're these.
These,
They're these right here.
Father-daughter matching
Right,
shoes.
we're going to be matching. I actually got her these socks also to match with the shoes. No, the shoes are called Twinkle Toes. And you know what they do? The toes twinkle. It's pretty great marketing, I think, on their end, the people at Twinkle Toes, because when she moves, the toes light up. And she's wanted these shoes for a while, and she wore them to school today. She's pretty pumped about it.
The battery-powered ones?
I have no idea.
built in.
Guys,
What were the-
I don't buy these.
No, what were they called?
I'm gonna explain something
they
to
were
Hutton
big
here.
whenever we were in school.
When Hutton asked me,
LA
does she
Lights
does she
or
like
whatever
her
they were
gifts?
called?
I'm going to explain something for all married guys with kids out there or family members. I have no idea what she got until she opened it this morning. This is a testament to my wife who buys the gifts. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know what she wanted. I don't know what was in there. It was just as big a surprise to me when she opened it. I'm like, oh, look.
Oh, I love it.
It's Woody from Toy Story. I love Toy Story. Great. I mean, I think the dad
You get a
can be
bread
just
maker?
as surprised and happy to see the presents as the little girl. Oh, look, you got twinkle toes. What a great invention. I mean, that's how excited I was. I have no idea what were in those boxes until she opened it.
Well, she's at the age now where she will remember the presents.
Oh,
For sure.
The marquee gifts, like, what is it, like age 4, age 5, where you first remember your birthdays and Christmases?
Evie is big into sharing now, and she's very sweet about it, even with her classmates or her little sister. So everything she gets, she had a chocolate muffin with a candle in it for her birthday this morning for breakfast. And Lucy, her little sister, was whining about not having a full chocolate muffin. So she's giving her piece of the muffin, but she also likes to tell everybody that she's being generous.
sharing.
Hey, Mom, Dad, look, I'm going to be nice and give Lucy some of this. Hey, look, I gave this kid that. So now I'm trying to have the conversation, well, you know, it's good to be a giver and to be generous, but no one likes a loud, generous person. To go announce the world every time they do something nice for someone and then repeat it, you know, on repeat, that's not what people want.
Can I get a one shot here? Evie, I really like chocolate muffins. And I'll be here tomorrow morning.
We do have
Mr.
one
Chad
extra one.
could bring me anything you want.
We
from
do
your
have
house.
one extra one, Paul.
And we don't have to talk about you being generous. I can just.
We do have one extra. I'll bring it.
The
Probably not.
fans
up to
revolt, another example of the fans getting their way. We will explain in just a moment.
I love these stories of fans
Also,
getting their way. I love them.
The NFL showing why they get their way with their players and the NFLPA. Another example of the NFL winning the negotiation by a mile. And that example is with Juwan James, who was released by the Denver Broncos over the weekend. Plus Aaron Rodgers and John Kuhn late last week, who I believe Mike Florio called his surrogate, coming out and saying that the relationship is, in fact, and he does believe it is fixable between Rodgers and the Packers, and he's doubled down on that. So we will explain and give our thoughts on the relationship between the future Hall of Famer and the reigning MVP, and what the Packers are doing at the position in case he's not back. All that more straight ahead. But first, a great offer from Manscaped.com, the best in men's grooming. Proper grooming requires precision-engineered tools for your family jewels, and the all-new trimmer, the Lawnmower 4.0, just released, and it's now available at Manscaped.com. With Manscaped, you have the right tools for the job. They obsess over providing the best tech, the advanced ceramic blade, and the skin-safe technology.
And the LED spotlight, providing a more precise shave, and there are new additional guard length sizes 1 through 4. It's waterproof, perfect for the shower, Paul. Plus, wireless charging.
And a great offer, PK.
You think I'm a big shower guy?
Yeah,
huh?
I know you're a big shower guy.
Yeah, 20%
We were
off.
past a year ago.
That is a nice high number discount and free shipping, all with the code OK360 at manscaped.com. That's manscaped.com.
Back with more in a moment on OutKick 360.
Most tenants are good people who play by the rules. But sometimes you can get one who's a little deadline challenged. In other words, they're late with the rent. When this happens, you can either spend the precious hours you have left on Earth calling, texting, and emailing them, or you can turn over your property management to Renters Warehouse. Because when we say we'll collect the rent, we'll collect the rent.
RentersWarehouse.com.
Need a pen?
'Cause 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 Hey, what's up, everybody? Really excited to finally have some in-person OutKick VIP events. We're at 6th and Peabody, Old Smoky, Yeehaw Brewery. Awesome day, great questions, good to shake everybody's hand. It's just good to be able to get out and see everybody.
We love to meet with the people that make us possible as a show, the people that tune in, the people that watch, the people that listen.
A lot of these VIPs interact with us on Twitter, on Facebook, on Instagram, and now we get a chance to come out and hang out, watch games, and interact with them the same way we would interact with the three of us on a daily basis. It's awesome.
If you're at a VIP event, you're going to hear more about the inside jokes, stuff that goes on behind the scenes. You can ask us anything. We want to be with listeners and viewers as much as possible, so we're thrilled.
Looking forward to doing a lot more of these VIP events as we continue to grow.
It's an incredible experience. I would advise everyone out there, if you're a fan of OutKick or OutKick 360, to sign up and be a VIP.
Try listening.
OutKick 360 rolls on across the OutKick OTT network. I'm watching on YouTube where we have the chat going on for OutKick 360. John Kemper, OutKick 360 season ticket holder, says the bald, the beard, and the Chad.
Oh, nice.
You got to let me give behind the scenes. We're in that break, and Chad is singing "Rise Up" from Hamilton, and he's talking about
under my breath. It's not like a
he's
Broadway
not,
production.
Not like me belting
I didn't
it
stand
out.
on my chair and do all the motions or anything.
Not like me, but he's talking about how addictive it is and everything, and he can't get it out
The
of his
Hamilton
head.
soundtrack is the most addictive thing I've ever heard in terms of earworms that you
It's
can't get out of your
unbelievable.
head.
But Hutton, very, very Hutton, as low key as possible, without like turning his head or anything, offers a solution to getting it out of his head. He said, "Try listening to something else."
When you listen to something over and over again, it's going to get repetitive, and
Which
you're going
is-
to hum it and sing it to yourself.
It's great advice from Hutton. Before that,
And if you
Sometimes
don't
you
like
don't want
radio
to.
shows, try listening to something else. It's not that hard.
This is and that's a great point.
That-
Especially when we hear this all the time. Boy, I hate this. Can't stand this since someone left this. And I'm thinking, well, why do you put up with it? Like,
Right.
I love Dave Matthews Band.
Habit.
So I get into a Dave Matthews Band wormhole where I listen to all Dave Matthews Band for months on end when I'm listening to music. But I'm listening to different songs. So to Hutton's advice, I'm going to start listening to Dave Matthews Band again because there's different songs, and I don't sing those songs over and over like the Hamilton soundtrack. So Hutton, I'm taking your advice.
I'm going the other way.
I'm going back to Dave Matthews Band.
I haven't listened to Hamilton in a long time, so I'm going back to Hamilton.
So now Paul's going to be the guy humming Hamilton songs tomorrow on the show. Perfect.
Full circle of life. It's beautiful.
Now I've got that song in my head.
Is that a reference to the Hamilton show?
No, that's
No,
the Lion
Circle of
King.
Life. No, that's Lion King,
Lion
which
King.
I don't know at all.
And aren't they
That
coming out
got
with the new
skipped in
Lion
my
King?
house.
They are. Funny you bring that up. Barry Jenkins, the director of this Underground Railroad show that just dropped on Amazon to high acclaim, is going to be directing a new Lion King movie for Disney Plus in Disney.
They just did a new Lion King movie that
know.
failed miserably.
It is amazing how quickly, if you screw something up,
You just go
there
do
was
it
just
again.
a Suicide Squad movie. Like a
Which
year ago.
sucked.
And they're doing another Suicide Squad movie because the first one sucked.
Did they sign Margot Robbie up for?
I don't think she's
10
No, she
films?
is in this one. And they're just completely doing it like the first one didn't happen. It's crazy.
Taylor on the YouTube channel wants to know if I've bought my DMB tickets for the summer yet. I have not yet.
At the pilgrimage?
They are coming to Pilgrimage, but they're also, they've released their summer tour, which, by the way, the tours are about to light up even more because now you've got Fenway Park and other places opening up north. Let's go. Let's get them going.
I'm ready for that Rolling Stones
go.
show to be rescheduled at Nissan Stadium as they continue
been-
to earn interest
Yeah.
on my significant investment.
Yeah.
That's
And,
right.
and remember, we discussed this, right, as COVID hit last year. Guys like, and tours, not guys, big, massive stadium tours in general were saved from having to reduce in size down to arenas. A great example is Justin Bieber, who was really struggling to sell tickets to Nissan Stadium for his stadium tour for the summer of 2020.
And that's because of lack of interest in Justin Bieber, nothing to do with COVID.
Well, on the tickets, right. And they went on sale right at the start of the year, and then everything shut down. And they were about to announce that show was going to be moved because they weren't meeting a certain threshold for the venue. So I wonder as
Well,
things
he may
crank
be
back
moving.
up.
There's, I don't sense any increased interest in Justin Bieber. He may have gone from the
I don't
arena
know.
to. He may have gone from
had
the
a couple-
stadium to the arena.
he's had a
Now he
couple
might
of
be
hits
playing
since
the
then.
Ryman.
Yeah, well, the Ryman would be cool for anybody. But if he goes from like the Nissan Stadium to Bridgestone Arena, that is a significant drop in tickets.
I just love the backstory of the pandemic caused this rush in demand for Justin Bieber tickets. People's like,
I'm
I'm
saying-
so ready to go to any concert. I'm buying 8 together at Nissan Stadium
I'm
for
using
Bieber.
him as the example just for stadium, like for if you're wanting to get out and go to a show,
Yeah.
and you weren't buying tickets in January of 2020, are you buying them now?
Not for Bieber.
I mean, I do think that, yes, there's going to be more people that are just ready to get out
Yeah.
and be around people to do something. I don't know if it's going to make Justin Bieber a stadium draw across America. But, I mean, if it was still for sale at Nissan Stadium, yes, I think he would sell more. Does he reach the threshold of that? Probably not, but definitely more.
Paul, an example of fans revolting.
Yeah, so we've seen this now a couple of times. I'm not going to remember the best examples. Well, Greg Schiano was one at UT. Where and now the Super League in Europe with the soccer.
Yes.
Where fan revolt has produced results. And I think we like it, but I think it also shows us an example of how these teams and leagues don't think things out and don't include the fans on the front side so that they don't make this mistake that they have to reverse on the backside. So the Columbus Crew won the MLS Cup last year. All right. They almost left for Austin a couple years ago with the ownership troubles and whatever. They were saved. They're staying in Columbus. They actually have a new stadium coming. But they stripped this name, the Crew. It's not a great name, but it had history in Columbus, their lone pro team, and they were an original founding club in MLS from 1996. And they became, and we've got a graphic here, they became Columbus SC here. We're putting the graphic up for those of you who are just listening. And the fans went ballistic.
What a terrible logo.
The fans went ballistic.
It looks like a Sports Center logo beneath them.
Yeah, the MLS is not known for great logos, including the one here in Nashville, I would say. But the fans went crazy, and two supporter groups got themselves into a meeting with Dee Haslam and the other owners of Columbus SC. And lo and behold, a week after they announced they're losing the Crew, they're back to being the Crew. And they're going to change this logo. That little triangle in the bottom right corner is going to have a 96 in it, which was part of their original logo that says that they're an original member of the league.
Why not put
and they're
that
going
in there
back. So they were going to be Columbus Crew. They went from Columbus Crew to Columbus Crew SC, but people were saying Crew SC too much, and they were like, well, Columbus isn't getting enough attention. Now they're back to being the Columbus Crew, which is what the fans wanted. And if they had checked in with the fans in the first place, they wouldn't have gone through this whole process of changing it to where they're now changing it back. So they look somewhat sympathetic to the fans, like, hey, you're listening. But guess what? If you listened in the first place and included them in the first place, you wouldn't have gone through this whole process of change.
I have some thoughts on this. You don't change the name of your team unless gate and attendance and finances are so bad that one of the options to improve that and make a profit or make a little money is to change the name. And if that's the case, I don't give a damn what the small amount of fans think.
Right.
If I've run a business and I'm thinking it's going to help my business and my bottom line. If the fans in Columbus of the Crew are so passionate and spending so much money to go to games, there never should have been a consideration to change the name of the club.
Certainly not without polling.
So, that's what I don't get. Why change the name if the team's following can elicit such a passionate response that they're going to be so angry with the name change that you have to change it back? The decision never should be made unless you're going to be okay. The finances are so bad with the club, you're going to be totally okay with the diehards being upset because there's not enough diehards. And you're going to have to explain to them that we're trying to build new fans and make some money, and this is what's going to happen, and hopefully you'll stick around to see
and
it.
also, everything's going to FC and SC like Europe, which is, I guess a nice trend that's making MLS more like Europe. But if you're one of the original teams that had an actual name and you're coming off a championship season and you've survived this fight where you almost got moved to Austin, don't you embrace history instead of countering to go be like everybody else?
My initial thought on stories like this is they can't be this stupid. This is a league 30,000-foot view of the Columbus Crew telling them, hey, change to SC because we're all doing this. It's SC, United, and what are the other?
FC Real.
Yeah. This is an MLS deal that went really bad and now they're correcting it on the back end. Because if you're in the city, you know what works and what doesn't. To Chad's point,
You would think.
they're not that stupid, and the league got it wrong. They were doing exactly what the league. Well, no, I don't know this.
Dee
That's the
Haslam's
only
a big
thing that
part.
makes sense to me.
Dee Haslam's a big part of ownership, and she's not in the city. She's in Cleveland.
Isn't it also just a knock on your own league when your marketing strategy is to copy another more successful league? Like MLS is moving to a more European model with how they name teams. Why? Because European clubs are successful. Like I hear that and I really want to get behind Nashville SC, and I can't help but, Paul, you're big on I go with what's bigger and broader and better, and that's what I'm going to support or root for. And I hear that and think, how excited am I going to get about a league that had all these names for clubs and now all the new names for new teams are trying to be more like Europe?
Yeah, I don't think you need to do it name-wise. Like, I don't know why you wouldn't combine, like, hey, we want to be like the European product, but we're going to be like American sports in terms of naming. There's a happy medium here where you can combine the best of both.
It's just very weird that they do it, and it's right in the middle of their season, right?
Yeah.
It's just all strange. And to me, it's the MLS.
You have to credit fan. The power of fan revolts is getting stronger, because for a long time, when would a fan revolt ever work? If you made a change at something like this, the fans would be SOL. Right after the fact, you could have protests and boycotts and all of that, but a team would never relent and come back because we made the decision and this is what we decided to do, and we can't be told by the fan base what's right and what's wrong. That was the way it worked. This is a major sea change in American sports, that now some teams will reverse course on some things. I think it's a big statement about the power of the fan.
Well, and pardon me for being the ugly American here, but I like my American sports American. And if it's Columbus Crew, sounds a heck of a lot more American to me than Columbus SC or whatever they want to change it to. It's fine to be that way. When I watch this Formula One documentary, I'm watching because I love the European elements of it. It's separate. It's good. I like it that way. I don't want it to be Americanized when I'm watching that sport or watching that show. And the same can be said for soccer in the United States. Yes, if the European style of play is the most entertaining and best product, mimic that. But it's okay to keep the American roots of how we name sports teams.
Yeah, I agree with
We
that.
don't have to go copy, a team in England because, more people are into that, and English Premier League soccer has a bigger following now in the States, so we got to do exactly what they're doing. Keep it Americanized in that way.
It's also not a bad. I don't hate Columbus Crew as much as I think most people outside of Columbus do.
Well, I think it was a name that kind of was the name of the fans.
Yeah.
So people related to that because they're the Crew. The fan base was the Crew. It's not like the Revolution.
It's
Columbus
one
SC
of like
is
5
very-
teams I could name from the
But
beginning.
why would you change
also.
it to something that's just very uniform and milquetoast? That, to me, it's because the MLS told them to.
I don't know. But, a team like the Crew, I think, would have enough power to not fall in line.
They have to be thrilled that they're going back to it. I would be if I'm within the organization.
Well, I think you're waking up today, if you're in management or ownership with that team, feeling very good about your relationship with your fan base now.
And
For
also
a week,
feeling
you were sleepless because your fans were threatening protests and
Right.
boycotts on the verge of opening a new stadium. I think they're maybe a year away. I don't know.
another reason why it's just so dumb, right? If you're opening a new stadium, you're selling tickets. You know what your fan base likes and what they don't like.
You should.
You're selling tickets to that new venue.
Yeah, you certainly should.
I do like the fan revolt stories, though. Like, anytime we get this, I enjoy it.
So what's the most recent one that hasn't worked like this? Because even like locally, for those watching in Nashville, the Nashville Sounds, the minor league team here, announced a uniform change, a color scheme change.
To the color of vomit.
It was really bad. And within 48 to 72 hours, it was back to
Regular colors.
Regular colors. Yeah.
They were tan. What teams ever tan?
I don't know. I just
Didn't the Philadelphia
I'm all for
Flyers,
the fans voicing their opinion on this.
Didn't the Philadelphia Flyers change mascots, and it was a big joke across the league? But I feel like the fans were outraged about the mascot change,
Gritty?
but they didn't change it.
There
was something with that at one point.
Gritty is
That's
fine.
in the NHL.
I'm thinking with you, Hutton, I'm trying to think of the
yeah,
last
Flyers, he
fan
said.
revolt to not work.
They said Phillies. Yeah. I mean, you have to
Tweet us.
You speak with your money.
OutKick 360.
Right? You speak with your money. So MLS, as much as they wanted to change it, surely they saw the money was speaking to the point where they were changing it back to the crew. So
Well, the kicker in the story I wrote in the Columbus Dispatch was a guy who was head of one of the two fan groups. And this is a soccer thing that you like. They have these very strong, passionate
Vocal.
fan groups
yes.
that do hold power. And this guy said, yeah, I'm relieved not to have to be considering a boycott. And these are people who follow through, too, on this boycott claims, as opposed to a lot of these people that we hear.
That's what I mean.
That we hear that
Yes.
say, I'm never going to turn the game on again,
Right.
who we know damn well turned the game
And
on
watched it.
again. These people are more passionate on that level that would follow through on some of these promises.
I just keep coming back to, if the passion was there to elicit
Why
a change, why would you ever change? I mean, if it was that you have to know your own fan base. We knew that the University of Tennessee fans were capable of a mutiny with their size and scope. I mean, no one doubted that, right? You knew there was a big deal. But if you're the owner of the Columbus Crew and you didn't know your own fans were capable of causing enough noise to make you reverse course, then that's a failure on ownership.
We just
to
got
begin
a
with.
big free lesson on your fan base.
Willing to produce change is something that the NFL Players Association has not done in the recent collective bargaining agreements. They talk a big game going up and into negotiations, but ultimately the money wins out. And I don't blame them. They're getting, 49% of revenue. They're getting paid, and collectively they're able to go and play without having to strike or sit out with the walkout. But the Juwan James injury over the weekend is pointing once again to the fact that the NFL, the most popular sport, their Players Association is the weakest. Their union is the weakest. And Juwan James, at the request of the Players Association, did not work out at the Denver Broncos team facility.
Stopped working out.
Stopped. He was there and left. Worked out in his own. Suffered an Achilles injury and was done for the year. The Broncos waived him. They cut
Put
him
him on
from the
NFI
roster.
for a while and then waived.
Non-football injury, and then cut him over the weekend where he would have made $10 million in 2021. That's no longer there, to the point where he tweets out to his own union and the NFLPA, if you're going to advise us, we need you to have our backs on the other end of this. Meaning, there needs to be some structure, some pool of money, some insurance policy for the players that they don't have to do on their own. Many players have personal insurance policies for the off season. When you see these guys working out in Florida or working out at a high school area, they have insurance policies on their, on their well-being in the off season, where if they get hurt and something like this happens, they're protected. Juwan James may have that, but not to the full extent of what his contract dictated and what the Broncos just cut him for. Paul, this is an example where the union should step up and cover players if they're going to give them advice of not showing up and working out under a team's advisement, so where if they do get hurt while working out, they're covered through their contract.
Or at the very least, they've got to advise these guys before any of this, like as a matter of policy, get an insurance policy. Because the league is going to try to screw you if you get hurt off property. Or when we're making this big push for you to work off property, you probably ought to get an insurance policy. Because here's Juwan James saying, hey, NFLPA, if you're going to advise us, we need you to have our backs on the other end of this. And they don't have his
And the tweet below, when they're referring to Hamilton, James Hamilton, Deshaun Hamilton, I believe, tore his ACL while working out outside of the team facility as well. So,
I mean,
another example.
It's just a sucky thing all around. But it is ridiculous. I can't imagine anybody would disagree. The idea that he is, and I don't think there's any reason to not believe that he is training for football, and he gets hurt training for football, and he's out $10 million and he's out of work. I think this is a huge failure by the NFLPA. They just negotiated this new contract, this new CBA a couple years ago, and they failed to address this. Now J.C. Tretter's out front, so they failed to address a couple things. They failed to address what they want in the offseason because they didn't know what they wanted in the offseason until they discovered it based off COVID.
Right.
And so now they want different things. Well, you just negotiated a 10-year deal. I think it opts out after 7, maybe.
They can, yes, that's correct.
Right? So you just negotiated a new deal, and you're already 2 years into it. You want something different. Well, that's not how it works. So, you're kind of changing course here 2 years into 7 years or maybe 10 years. That's weak by you. And you have to give something back if you want to renegotiate that with the league. And you haven't even formally said we want to renegotiate that with the league. You're just publicly campaigning to change the deal that you agreed to. And then you're asking your players to sit out something voluntary, granted, but you're not giving them a recourse for the worst case scenario that happens to Juwan James.
Well, Tretter's in a tough spot because I think he's very smart and bright, and I think he's said a lot of good things throughout this process
He's
about
done a
the
lot of
offseason.
good, but he's failing here.
A lot of great stats and numbers of off-season training. The lack of preseason led to nearly 50 less concussions last year, and that speaks to the NFL.
It's also
where they don't have to
comparing
change a rule or change a pad or a helmet. That's just less injury.
It's also comparing it to other sports.
Sure.
But that's where you could have done it with the CBA.
But see, here's where the difference is for him, and Kevin Mawae faced the same thing. The quarterbacks hold all the power in this league. If the quarterbacks got together and said, we're not playing until we get X, Y, and Z, the NFL Players Association would get anything that they were asking for. But the quarterbacks don't do that because they're the ones making all the money. They're making the guaranteed cash. And the veterans who hold all the power are showing up.
They want this work.
They're not going to hold out. Tom Brady's going to work out the park down in Tampa if he's locked out of his team facility.
Well, he's saying don't go. He's saying don't go to these workouts. But in the meantime, he's holding his own workout, and he's taking his chances with the injury thing.
Right.
And he's got his insurance policy, you can be sure.
The quarterbacks hold the power in this if they really wanted to get their way within the structure of the union and the way things are set up. They could do that. They could become, in essence, what the star power of the NBA has. I'm not saying we want that structure, but we're seeing it somewhat, and we'll see how it plays out with Aaron Rodgers, and we'll get to that in a moment. But we're starting to see this offseason Russell Wilson, Aaron Rodgers, and others who are publicly saying they're disgruntled, they don't like where they are, and we haven't really seen that on a consistent basis from that position group as a whole. We've seen Favre and others have contract disputes, but ultimately they show back up and they play.
Deshaun Watson was having one before.
Deshaun Watson's a good
chaos.
example.
I think if you take the advice of a incompetent, ineffective union, then you are going to reap the consequences of taking that advice. And that's what Juwan James is right now. It's very unfortunate for him, but I really can't wrap my head around sympathy for the players in this. And here's what I mean by this. If I'm a player, I'm wanting every opportunity to be on my team's dime if I'm doing something that physically puts me at risk. This is like anyone who works a job. You're not going to go do that job that could hurt you on your free time. You're going to do it on your company's dime because they're going to have you covered in that way. I don't know why. It screams of laziness that they just don't want to travel or go to their team. It's a weird thing to say, I don't want to go to workouts. I want to do it on my own. I don't want to do it in the team facility. I mean, this would be like if we decided we had 9 months a year we had to do a show. and we got together and decided, 3 months of the year, I don't want to come into the studio. I want to do it from home. And then my Wi-Fi goes out for all 3 months, and OutKick comes back and says, we're not going to pay you for those 3 months because you did it from home, but we had no content because you had no Wi-Fi. And then I come back and argue, no, you should pay me for those 3 months. If you're going to work out on your own and you're going to die on this hill and you rupture your Achilles working out from home because you believe you don't want to go to the facility or you're taking the advice of a bad union, then you get cut. That sounds very cold, but that's the reality. And teams have the right to do that. And this is the weakest union in professional sports. And it is the strongest league. And I can't help but think both go hand in hand. Because the players having all the power does not tend to work out well. If I had to pick a side, this is not me saying, boy, I feel really bad for these billionaire owners. But if I had to pick a side about who has the league and the product in mind more, it's the owners. The owners have money in mind. And guess what makes money? Fan approval, people watching your games, people going to your games. Players don't oftentimes care as much about that. They want to get theirs. So when the owners win out more often, guess who else wins? The fans. It's why we all watch the NFL.
It's a better product as a result of this for sure. I don't disagree with that. But, and I'm not entirely sympathetic to the players, but here's what's going on with the players. It's called voluntary.
That's right.
But it's not voluntary, right? If you don't go, you're sold in the media as selfish, as not caring about the team. Teams put that out in the current, right? This guy's not here. What's that mean about his commitment? So they're getting the best of both worlds here. They get to call it voluntary. Mike Vrabel gets to say, I'm not keeping attendance, but if it's out that one of his best guys isn't there, that guy looks bad.
See,
and
that's
so the
why,
union
Paul,
does a bad job with the way it negotiates this whole deal.
That's why the teams open the doors and want you to go cover these mini camps.
Because I'm taking attendance.
Yeah, it's the attendance fact. You're allowed to say who's there and who's not there. You just can't report on what they're doing. They want you to let fans know who showed up to the voluntary workouts.
Right. So the players can't win in this, even with it being voluntary, and that's what their pushback is.
By showing up.
But that's what their pushback is, because what they're saying
this is every job in America. You have to show up.
Yeah, but they push for more and more, despite the regulations. And you see some teams even push hard enough that they get days taken away, and they don't care. They say, "I'm going to trade pushing the offensive lineman too hard for 3 days here, get reported to the league and the PA, and get the other days taken away, and I don't care because I got those 3 hard days in." Now, what kind of system is that?
It's a system of work and getting compensated for your work. I mean, I don't think it's unfair to make, they could change the wording from voluntary, but I don't think the amount of time they're asked to be there, given the off season they have and the abilities to do some things on their own, I don't think it's outrageous.
Well, it's not outrageous, but this thing where you push the boundaries, where the coaches are always pushing the boundaries. Can this be contact? Can it not be contract? Somebody's reporting us, all of this stuff. The players feel like the coaches are constantly pushing the limits, pushing the limits, pushing the rules. And that's part of the resent that's built in here. I think they've got a case on some of that. Not every team, but enough teams that makes it an issue for the union. And who's policing that?
Well, their NFLPA rep.
Yeah, but it's not. They're not strong.
Right. But the issue at hand here is the union itself needing to strengthen by protecting its own players. I mean, so the next time this comes around, not in the players want to advise others not to go to these types of things. Maybe it's a different event moving forward. You can use Juwan James as the example here about how they didn't protect their own guy, one of the true veterans of the league, from this type of injury. Even though he was training for football.
Both sides can use it, though. Players can use it against the league, but players can use it against the union too. So,
yes.
You know what? It can be used by either side against both sides.
Coming up is the relationship between Aaron Rodgers and the Packers fixable. That is straight ahead. But first, Renter's Warehouse. a great example of how they can fix some income up for you.
Uncertain times in Green Bay with Aaron Rodgers and his status, uncertain times in the country economically. It's been a tough year for a lot of people. Maybe if you own rental properties, you're having a hard time finding renters for those properties. There is a program going on right now at Renters Warehouse you got to know about. If you own rental property and you need cash and you're worried about receiving rent on time, they've got the program for you. Get the most out of your real estate investment by receiving a full year of rent paid up front. That's up to a year of rent payments in your pocket right this second. By giving your money up front, Renters Warehouse helps minimize risk and provides financial flexibility so you can build long-term wealth. It is a win-win for you. The upfront rent program is available for a limited time. You can call Renters Warehouse Nashville. You can see the number if you're watching us right now, 615-398-9550, or visit rwnashville.com to see if you qualify. Again, the website, and they made this especially for us to take advantage of this program, rwnashville.com. Renters Warehouse. Do it the Renters Warehouse way and get tomorrow's rent today.
We discuss a player with a lot of power, Aaron Rodgers, next on OutKick 360.
Meet Dave and Wendy. They're moving, so they're selling a lot of their stuff. But what about their house? Even in a good market, you should think twice before selling. The smarter financial decision might be renting instead, especially when you hire the professional landlords at Renters Warehouse. Don't sell out, cash in. Visit renterswarehouse.com right now and find out how much your house could rent for. A rental price analysis is totally free. So what have you got to lose? I'll take that guitar.
OutKick 360 rolls on.
One more thing about the weakness of the NFLPA, and we all agree about its lack of strength compared to its compatriots around professional sports in America. So J.C. Treader and DeMaurice Smith have done such a poor job in terms of being able to get something done here in revising the off season that it's now left to team by team. So this is a union that's failed in a big mission that's left it to teams. So the Colts, the Cardinals, the Bengals, and the Chargers are among the teams, according to Albert Breer, who have managed with their teams, talking to their coaches and their GMs to revise their offseason. The Colts have limited OTAs to 2 weeks. They'll be done by Memorial Day. And all their 11 and 11 stuff will be walkthroughs, and there'll be no mandatory minicamp. The Cardinals minicamp, they'll have a minicamp, but they'll only have 3 OTA practices for veterans. The Bengals have eliminated full-speed 11-on-11 drills, and team drills will be done at walkthrough pace. The Chargers 11-on-11 will be at walkthrough pace. This is players, coaches, and GMs negotiating amongst themselves because of the failures of the union to be able to reach some agreement on behalf of everyone. Now, is that a good thing or a bad thing? You know, you could say, hey, they're getting it done on the small level. But if I'm a player, I'd say, I got to do this myself because you can't get it done?
There's just a bunch of tent poles, but no tarp. There's no umbrella overseeing anything.
That's a good way to put it.
And then if you're on a team that can't get this done because you're dealing with a coach or a GM who's less flexible, you're saying, well, geez, my buddy in Arizona's doing walkthroughs right now while I'm doing full speed stuff.
Think Aaron Rodgers is going to do anything for the Packers? Full speed? I bring this up because his buddy John Kuhn continues to say that he believes the situation is fixable. Meanwhile, over this past weekend, as we continue to go through the headlines from the past few days, they have signed Blake Bortles. So they now have 3 former first-round picks at quarterback. Bortles is the highest pick among the 3, surprisingly. So they have Bortles. And then there's another report out there that in trade discussions, if teams are calling the Packers are requiring a quarterback in return for the offer. So my whole theory of, look, they drafted Jordan Love for a reason. I don't know why you would want a backup quarterback in a trade if you have Jordan Love and you're signing your other quarterbacks right now during an offseason where you can get them involved in your system, while you would acquire a quarterback right before the season in a backup role. I don't know. That's a little confusing to me.
I was totally on board with you on that. I don't really understand it.
But the reports are that the Raiders and the Broncos are being told they need to return with an offer including a quarterback.
Well, I mean, if you're getting Drew Lock or Teddy Bridgewater, I mean, that's a guy that would sit behind Jordan Love if Jordan Love's any good.
Right.
If you're getting Derek Carr, he's pretty good. You know, to me, then you're stuck with 2 starting quarterbacks if Jordan Love is as good as you want. Maybe they're thinking we get another commodity.
But see,
they've had quarterback commodities in their history.
But it sends a signal by them asking for that in return. It sends a signal to me that they really don't know, and they don't. They don't know what they have in Jordan Love because he's been inactive, but.
They're insuring
you trade up to get him because he was so good that you couldn't pass up on him. Where is that attitude right now?
Well, I think they're insuring themselves because they know Blake Bortles isn't the answer, so they want to have 2. And then maybe they figure if Jordan Love is great, they've got a high-quality backup for a year, and then they're dealing a quarterback a year from now if they've got Derek Carr. You know, not so much Bridgewater or Locke, I wouldn't think, but Derek Carr is a commodity in a year.
I do think, Chad, there is a line of demarcation with Aaron Rodgers and the Green Bay Packers from the trade element in this regard. And I don't know what the offer would be for me, but there is a line in the sand on what is considered behind the scenes a great offer for a future Hall of Fame quarterback who's the reigning MVP to trade away versus an offer that's okay, but it's more valuable to call his bluff and say, you're either playing for us or you can retire. Like that, there is value in that as well because you're not just trading away a franchise quarterback with a chance to go win a Super Bowl to another team, albeit what could be in a different conference. My point being, there's still value within the Packers and what they hold in saying, play for us or don't play, period. We're going to call your bluff on it. And there has to be an offer and a line in the sand that they're willing to accept versus trade away just for the sake of getting something in return for a quarterback that's just disgruntled and you know you're going to move on from 12 months from now.
I agree with that. I also believe that everything that we learn about this story comes back to just how dumb it was to draft Jordan Love. No one was after Jordan Love. They traded up to get Jordan Love. It was a complete shock. They drafted Aaron Rodgers in a bit of a surprise because Aaron Rodgers could have been the number 1 overall pick and fell to the 20s whenever they got him that year. And there was no doubt they were ready to go to Aaron Rodgers, that he wasn't ready to be the starter. They weren't talking about trades for Brett Favre when he was unhappy to go get a starter so Aaron Rodgers could back him up. The Packers organization knew Aaron Rodgers was the heir apparent and was going to be a great NFL quarterback. They knew what they had with him, probably from day one at practice. They knew what he was going to become, and he had to sit the bench while a legend finished out his career with the Packers. And now, if you're going to trade up and get Jordan Love, and a year later we're hearing these reports about they need a quarterback in exchange, it just confirms what I thought in the moment, that it was extremely dumb to draft Jordan Love.
I think he's going to be there for the start of training camp. I'm sticking with that. I think he'll fold. He's made clear his feelings, and this will be his swan song year there. Perhaps one in which they finally go and win it all. The pressure will be higher on them than it's ever been in this.
Coming up, pressure on the Preds to win Game 2 because they were pushed around in Game 1, especially in that third period last night against Carolina as the Stanley Cup playoffs got underway. The Preds, the clear underdog here, but a chance to win a critical Game 1, and they couldn't do it despite being tied going into the final period. Our thoughts there as the Tennessee Power Hour begins next on OutKick 360.
Selling your home can leave money on the table, while renting can give you a rich blend of benefits. Not just cold hard cash, but steady, reliable cash flow. When it comes to selling versus renting your home, renting can make a lot more sense.
Find out how much your home will rent for. RentersWarehouse.com.
You can find OutKick 360 content 24/7 wherever you download your podcasts, including Apple Podcasts. We hope you'll search out OutKick 360 and like, subscribe, and give us a rating. 5-star rating. As you scroll to the bottom, you can write a review as well and check out all of the content. We're going to post full shows immediately following every show, plus interviews, conversation, and exclusive content, and more. Just search out OutKick 360 on Apple Podcasts. OutKick 360 and the Tennessee Power Hour is here on this Tuesday edition alongside Chad Withrow and Paul Kuharski. I'm Jonathan Hutton. Glad you're with us, and we hope that you're subscribed to our new YouTube channel, OutKick 360 on YouTube. Just search out OutKick 360 channel in the search bar and hit the subscribe button. Ring that bell so that you're alerted to every time we go live and every time we post new content to this channel. And we certainly hope you'll check out the podcast feed. And if you're rewatching this, thank you. You can reach out to us on Twitter at OutKick360. We also pin this video to our Facebook page. The Preds fall last night 5-2 in Carolina in a game that was 2-2 going into the third with a chance to steal game one. Instead, they were pushed around in that third period, and Carolina looked completely like the number one seed that they are. Meanwhile, the Preds, you know, they look like the four. They look like the worst team favored. And I'm speaking specifically to the final 20 minutes. Carolina came out and their star power won that game. Jordan Staal was a beast. And yet we're still looking for the beast in the Preds, other than in net, to step up and win them a game.
It's a 60-minute deal.
Yep.
So the first 40 minutes, them being there, you know, is nice. But look, Carolina wasn't put off by the Preds' physicality in the least. Carolina was more physical. Carolina had more hits. Mm-hmm. Carolina held the Preds to 14 shots in the second and third periods combined. The Preds weren't close to good enough in this game in terms of this idea that they were going to muck it up and somehow slow down the skilled Hurricanes. The Hurricanes matched and surpassed the Predators' physicality. So if this series has to be Hurricanes' skill versus Preds' physicality, to me, this is a bad harbinger, because the Hurricanes were every bit as physical and able to stand toe-to-toe with the Predators in that regard. And if that's going to be a wash, then the Hurricanes are going to win on skill.
Well, and you heard the Preds say it after they won on that Saturday night to lock up the playoff spot. We know the formula, right? This is the formula to beating Carolina. Well, go look at that season record and how many times the Preds were able to replicate that formula. We talked about it. And David Reed brought up Carolina was playing for a President's Trophy that night, but they were locked up into the number one seed. Preds had a lot more to play for at that time. I have a hard time believing the Preds are going to beat anybody good in the playoffs. Why? Because they failed to do so over and over and over again in the regular season. The Preds it's a nice story that they came from the very bottom and they played well against mediocre to bad teams and won a bunch of games in the second half and rallied and got to the playoffs. But we'd be fooling ourselves if we said any of us really expected them to win this series or even compete to a great level in this series. It still can happen because hockey is weird and there's puck luck and there's goalies getting hot and everything else, and the Preds have one of the hottest goalies, if not the hottest goalie in the NHL. But what I saw last night, and especially in that third period, was exactly what I expected. A much better team beating a much worse team. They did it in the regular season, and they did it last night to start the playoffs.
They outworked them, and you know the key to the couple turning points. The Preds, so their style of play, how they're going to win a game coming up tomorrow night, for instance. How they can do it is they have to be the more physical team. They have to get great goaltending play from Saros. That we know, but they need to stay out of the penalty box. And they need to play with a lead. And they got the first goal last night. And quickly, within a minute and a half, the game's tied. They can't play that style of hockey without playing with a lead. You know, the muck it up, grind it out type of style. You need an over-under where it's under 5.5 goals total in the game. Like that. And instead, last night's going way over that mark. I know because I bet the over/under last night. But that's the only way I think the Preds win a game and make this a series coming back to Nashville on Friday. But also, right as the Preds drew a penalty, I think it was Yossi who drew a penalty for high sticking on McGinn, or maybe it was holding. And there was, or Yossi was the Preds were about to go on a power play, and it was even strength for about 30 seconds, 4-on-4.
Right, that's when they
got the 2-1 lead.
Yeah.
That was even though the Preds
Big
came back
moment.
to tie it, that changes the mentality and the style of play in the second period. And then the third period, it was just about the star power. The Preds, I mean,
I think that was Jordan Stahl's first goal.
it was
the one to make it 2-1.
which was beautiful.
Yeah.
But the overall, it comes down to what we said yesterday. The Preds have some high. It's not like they're the little engine that could, and they're playing with some players that are about to get a big payday. The Preds have the players who have the big paydays.
Well, the Forsberg goal is a good example of that.
They're not. Forsberg,
terrific goal.
That's the type of playmaker mentality
And that's
that
a
they've
star
got to
that
have.
should be doing that.
That's a star making a star play,
Yep.
and they don't have enough of that right now.
Carolina's got more.
Duchesne's a second-line center who's playing third. He's on the third line at right wing. I mean, the guy just sucks, and that's just how it is. I mean, he's just not good, but he's got the talent to be on the ice for them. Meanwhile, Tolvanen is not even active for the game. That's got to change. There were some strange things going on with the lineup last night. I won't pretend to predict what John Hines comes back with on Friday, but the Canes are too skilled versus the third line that we saw last night for the Predators. That we know, and that's where they really took advantage with the lineup change.
Is that Granlund, Yarncroke, and Kunin?
That was
Or is that the second?
I'm talking about the third defensive pairing.
Oh, your third defensive
that
pairing.
lazy goal.
They just go big. They
Yeah.
put two big guys out there who are just not very skilled.
Yeah, and meanwhile, Johansson was out there for that goal too. The second goal for Stahl, where you make a great save. You get a great save by
And then
UC
he
Saros,
just swoops it in.
and then they center it behind the net. They center it, and they take a big lead.
I can't help but think when I watch Matt Duchene, this was David Poyle's love interest for years.
Yeah.
He loved the guy.
Matt.
Everywhere he
Matt
was,
Duchene,
from
Matt
Colorado to Ottawa, loved Matt
His
Duchene.
name came up year after year.
Constantly came up year after year. He loves Nashville. He loves country music. It's going to happen, and then it happens. And it just fell on its face so quickly and constantly since he's been here. It's crazy to think about that. And I remember when Rick Barnes got the job in Knoxville, it was Retirement Rick. Everyone said, oh, he's just going there to collect a paycheck on his way to retirement. Well, that's worked out well. We didn't know that Matt Duchene apparently was Retirement Matt when he got here, and this was going to be the end of his career, because that's what it looks like with him as a Predator. I mean, it's remarkable how poorly it's gone for Matt Duchene, and it really is tough to explain. I know he's talked about puck luck, and I can't remember worse bounces since I've been here.
I'm sick of his attitude.
And that happening, and I just, it is so odd to think about the pursuit of Matt Duchene, the player he was at one point, the promise he showed, versus the actual production now that he's a Predator.
Tolvanen didn't play, and they weren't good on the power play. 0 for 3, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think
Barely getting any shots.
they're not going to contend in this series if they can't take advantage of power plays. There were a lot of criticism of the lineup, the choices on defense, and the choice not to play Tolvanen. Now, I don't know how you don't go back to Arvidsson, because he's one of your main guys. He was only out 5 games, right?
Yeah, but he's playing
you have
hurt.
to
You can
find
see him. He's exhausted. I mean, and that's no fault of his. He's playing exhausted, and he's playing hurt.
Is there somewhere else to find for Tolvanen, though? Do you find a place for both of them?
Yes.
Is it one or the other?
He's one of their top goal scorers this year. He's their best, one of their best power play guys. I mean, it's just, this is why coaches get paid.
Yeah.
We can second guess all we want. I know John Hines said, well, we lost because, their star players played a little bit better than our star players. And
Not a little bit.
Yeah, well, that's their interpretation. The lineup had nothing to do with it. Yes, it does. You are the head coach. You are charged with creating the lineup. When you lose 5-2, the lineup has something to do with it. When there's other options that aren't playing, that's just common sense, and they need to make some adjustments with that.
And also, and Paul, I think you may have mentioned this yesterday, and Chad, if it was you, I apologize.
I'll take credit.
This is a Preds team that no one's picking, right? No one's expecting them. Even whenever they're making this run to the postseason, the debate was on whether or not it was smart to make a push for the postseason and make the playoffs or rebuild for the future. What was more important at the time? That debate actually happened.
By the way, we're going to have that debate again if they get swept.
Well, so let's get into that.
That debate's coming back.
This is a team that you're not necessarily picking to win the series, but this is a team that needs to make this at least a 6-game series. I mean, you can't bow out and play with the effort that we saw in the third period. I watched Jordan Stahl play, and I'm using him as an example because that's the type of star power and firepower and attitude I want to see from two of the four, Forsberg, Johansson, Duchesne, Arvidsson. They have to have those front line guys playing at an extremely high level on top of UC Saros playing lights out. And they didn't have that last night for 60 minutes. And Carolina did. Carolina's number one because they have that type of, I think they have a very average goaltender. But the Preds didn't put enough heat on him. They didn't put pressure on him to crack. Meanwhile, the Hurricanes came out blazing in that third period.
Blazing.
They wanted it. And they got it to 2-2, but couldn't do much more than that. And Carolina's the better overall team, but the Preds had an opportunity to steal game one and couldn't do it on the road.
I think it helps when in any sport, pick a sport, when your most talented, best players, the one you rely on for the most production, also line up in there your alphas personality-wise on your team. I think it's pretty easy to say that's not the case with the Preds.
No.
When you look at Matt Duchene, Forsberg, Ryan Johansson, those guys are now not the alpha dogs of this locker room. They're not the go-get-'em, no-excuses type guys. And you can win with those guys when they're producing and they're really talented and they play up to the level of their talent. The problem is I think there's a disconnect on both ends of that. Their production has not been good this year, and their personalities don't line up with guys who are going to go out and take a no-excuses type approach. And that's what's led to some problems for the Preds. And you brought up that we were actually having this conversation about should they go for the playoffs or just completely rebuild?
They did the right thing.
They did the right thing by going for the playoffs, but I do think that it's going to be a conversation amongst fans. Well, what's the point in that second half run if you get swept and you look terrible in your one playoff
Well,
series?
you still want in because you don't know ahead of time that you're going to get
I
swept.
agree, in better than out. But when we're talking opportunity cost at the end of the season and what they could have gained with players on the other end, draft or whatever it may be, then that's where the discussion is going to come in. But I'm saying it's proven they should have gone for it because they got in. I think the discussion's over for that reason, but don't kid yourself in thinking there's not going to be fans talking about it if they look terrible throughout this entire series and get swept.
Carolina's the superior team.
Of course.
The Preds can make this a series. They can. But they have to stay out of the penalty box, and they have to play with the lead. And I know that may sound extremely simple, but for the style of play that it's going to require to beat Carolina, that's what
And they
it's
had a
going
lead
to take.
for a while last
But
night.
it goes back to, Chad brought up the lack of an alpha mentality. There's still time to show that from the leadership of this team. Forsberg, Johansson, Duchesne, the big players. I'm not expecting it from Matt Duchesne. I mean, let's be honest here.
That's
but
a lot.
he's the high-paid players we're talking about. He's in that group. For months, the talk was this team sucks. It's time to sell off. It's time to rebuild. To the debate of even getting to the postseason because you're going to get swept and you're going to get knocked out in the first round. What difference does it make? They have an opportunity to bring that alpha mentality last night to begin the third period and didn't. And now they have another chance to do it as they begin game two, where they're going to have to win a game on the road to even have a chance in the series to move on. Game two is where it's at. because then you return back home on Friday to not a packed arena, but 12,000 fans at Bridgestone Arena, which will sound louder than it was last night at a packed arena for Carolina, with an atmosphere that will be at a fever pitch for an opportunity to make and gain some ground in a series and take a series lead with a 1:30 face-off on Sunday afternoon for Game 4.
And one thing they've got to perhaps, we talked about Tolvanen being a big absence. They had Harper and Gudbranson were the two defensemen. It seems like Carolina
Harper's the guy that is, going back to going back, not the 2 games at home to end the season with Carolina, but the series prior in Carolina, they had Harper in with the third line pairing, the defensive pairing, and Carolina took advantage of that matchup then.
That's where I was going.
They did it.
They know
again
how to
last
take
night.
advantage of these two guys. Benning, Fabro were among the scratches. I would think you've got to make changes
And
there. And this big, tough thing didn't work.
No.
You're going to have to be more skilled.
They're just not that team. I remember Winnipeg.
Right, you can't
coming
just
to
be that
Nashville.
team.
They had some big, tough guys
They were
that could
fast.
intimidate. The Preds just aren't that team. They were, they've been a skilled team, fast team under Laviolette, high scoring. They're just not that enforcer. I think going back to the days of Shea Weber, maybe they had some teams like that, but they're not that type of team.
Yeah.
And also missed opportunities. This is what kills me about last night. Yes, Carolina's the better team. Yes, they were far superior last night. But Preds score first on a beautiful goal from Forsberg. Chance to put some pressure on Carolina, right? If I sneeze, I'm sorry. Allergies are bad this time of year. And then 2-2 going into the third. Chance for the team with all the pressure on them to feel the pressure and to apply more pressure. And instead, in both instances, Carolina flexed on them. Carolina came out and said, we are superior to you and we're going to show you. That was the mentality that whole third period, start to finish. And then I think about the Preds scoring first, and that can put a lot of pressure on the home team #1 seed. When that is a deflating feeling in the building when you give up the first goal, right? When you're the one with the pressure on you, and that's a chance. If you're the Preds, you
Get the
smell that
second
blood,
one, and then you really
you
roll.
go. And you could have had that same feeling in that second intermission, and instead, both instances, you could see it completely flip where Carolina treated them like it was a practice and they were the JV team. And it was time to step it back up and start playing hard again and assert their dominance. And that's what's frustrating to me about that game.
Even in the third period, I thought Saros did what he could to keep them in the game. It's 3-2 in the third period. And Aho has that breakaway. Great speed by him, by the way.
Yeah, he didn't
in the
do very
open
much
ice.
with
And
it.
Saros with a huge save. There's about 15 minutes left in the game, and it's 3-2. Now, soon after that is when Jordan Stahl hits Ellis up against the boards, hustles back to the front of the net, and Johansson looks stunned and just watches the puck go right past him to Stahl, who buries it. And that made it 4-2, and the game was over at that point.
I think there's something gets lost in the translation. Like they went from the idea of mucking it up to having to be somehow physically dominant, right? I think you can muck it up with your most skilled guys, right? Fight for it in the corner, slow it down, maybe some of these things, but you don't have to do it with brutes or, this defensive pairing that we're talking about. You have to play your biggest people or anything like that.
You got to be scrappier.
Right.
You have to outwork
Scrap it up, but with your most skilled people. Because you're going to have some skill here.
Oh, yeah.
You're not going to beat them without skill. And obviously, you're taught. You keep listing the 4 most skilled guys, obviously, but also, your bottom level guys are going to have to show some skill in order to beat this team because they're skilled top to bottom. It seems like.
Whatever optical illusion I was watching last night, where they said 12,000 were in attendance.
It looked packed.
It looked completely packed, top to
They
bottom.
didn't show the very top,
arena
I
shows
felt like.
over 19,000. There was one shot I saw that showed a good bit of the upper level, and everything looked packed.
There has to be
I
like
kept
a
thinking they
camera
weren't showing
side
the top or the
tarp
suites,
or something
maybe?
that's not being accounted
Or
for.
the suite.
I don't
has
know.
to be.
Let's
But
create
you're
that
right.
in Nashville.
You're
That's
right.
all I'm saying is, my point was, whatever that
It looks
optical
sold
illusion
out.
I saw, where they're claiming 12,000 are there, but it looked like 19,000.
It did.
Can we create the same thing
Well,
at Bridgestone Arena?
Whatever they're doing there, it's clearly not the limiting the 19 to 12 isn't a spacing thing, because the
They're all on top of each
prime
other.
seats were all loaded, right?
That's where. Well,
So is Bridgestone Arena going to be somehow spaced out, or is it going to be loaded in the prime section?
it
I don't
feels
know.
like.
I hope it's loaded.
It feels like cosmetic theater with the NHL right now with these rules, because Fenway Park is going 100%
Well,
open.
have you seen any
Next
of the
weekend,
hockey?
how
I haven't
you're-
seen any of the other hockey. Does it look packed?
Well, not all
The
the
other
arenas
hockey?
are to that level. The Preds,
I don't think all of them are to
I believe the
12,000
Preds would go
2/3.
more if the NHL allowed it. There's a reason why Carolina went unlimited capacity, and they're up to 12,000 in the arena.
It looked fantastic. It sounded
Yeah,
fantastic.
yeah. I guess my point is, I think they're working within the rules of the NHL, but the flexibility of the rules outside of the NHL. So
I kept thinking,
they're not
too-
spread out at all, but they said only 12,000 were in the building.
Yeah, I kept thinking too, their logo is one of the worst in sports. They salvage it somewhat by putting it on the flags on the jerseys that they were wearing last night. The flags with the flagpole being a stick. They should put that flag on center ice, because the logo that's on center ice, their primary logo, is just horrid.
Well, they've also gone to the very retro feel to their sweaters with the canes going down sort of diagonal on the jerseys too, which I like that look better than the logo on the front of the jersey. Some of their jerseys just have canes going across it. It's not a good logo. I'm with you.
Which comes from being a bad name. I mean, it's a bad name to illustrate.
How do you feel if you're Saros, where you make some big saves, and then not even on the rebound, sometimes it's just centered again,
I did think
and you have
was
players
Stahl's
in front
first
of
one,
you. Stahl's first
from
goal
the angle,
was beautiful.
He's got to stay at the post until that puck is put across. So I put that one on him. That was bad.
Oh, that's
by
a
him.
beautiful shot
But
by
the-
Stahl.
but
The
the rest
second
of
one,
it-
you can argue, is something that should have been saved by Saros.
Put
but the
that
first
slide
one
up
was
that
great.
I gave you. This
First one's a great shot.
This is the first one. Look at the space he's giving him here. He's way off the post. He's
Yeah,
got to
he's
be against the
anticipating a
post.
pass.
I know, but he can't anticipate the pass until the pass happens.
I think you anticipate a pass at that angle.
It's tough to see that he's way off the post there, considering the handle of his stick hand
Again, look at the
is on the
angle
back
of
side of the
Stahl.
post. It's
That is
But look, you
tremendous
can-
Oh, it's a
skill.
tremendous. I'm not denying it's a tremendous
but you
shot,
see what I'm
but
saying?
He's got to wait for the pass.
I don't know why you're saying he's way away from the post, though, because look, his stick is over the outside of the post.
Yeah, but look where
he's got to
his head
wrap
is.
around the outside.
There's a lot of space behind him for him to put that puck. It's a crazy
I
angle.
think
but you
Jordan
stay
Stahl
at the
put it
post
in
until you come on.
If
The
he
only
passes-
place he could have put it.
If
It was
he
just an
passes
amazing
this
shot.
puck, and the player behind, was it Johansson that we're looking
No,
at
you
here?
can't even see that guy yet, though.
Well, he's right there. He's right behind the Preds player on the replay. If he stuffs it on the other side, you'd be bitching that he didn't protect the opposite side and anticipate a pass.
Even Chris Mason, a gigantic homer of an analyst, said he came off the post too quickly here.
I don't. I'm looking at you picked a bad picture to illustrate that, because
That's an
he
insane
looks like
shot.
he is in perfect position and he's guarding the other side well also. I'd have to see him further away from the
second-
post,
the
because
second
what I
goal
saw
by
on the replay
Stahl-
was it was the only spot over that right shoulder where he could have put that, and I thought that Saros was playing it well. Because I was thinking the same thing. I'm like,
played
they're
well
gonna-
enough to
they're
win,
gonna
don't get
they're
me
gonna
wrong.
pass it back to where it's going to be an easy goal.
He
The
played well enough
second
to
goal
win. don't
by
get me
Stahl,
wrong.
you can argue that he's got to stay, a little higher there. But that goal
the
was
defense was
awesome.
not good enough by any means.
Well, and that first Forsberg goal
Terrific.
was awesome.
Strong.
But that's
Strong on the
Jordan
puck.
Stahl delivers in
Like
that
that.
game a couple times.
Yeah.
The Preds just need, Luke Cunning's not going to win this series, regardless of how scrappy he played the second half of the season. Guys like that aren't going to be the ones.
Forsberg needs to do that a couple of times.
They need stars to be,
Needs
and they need
do it
Duchesne
several
not to
times
be
over the
bad.
series.
I mean, I'm
with
past the
Hutton.
point of
Like,
expecting
Duchesne's
to
only
like.
playing like 9 minutes. Like
I know, it's-
we're using him as the battering ram here,
But he's
they're
already
not
gone.
even
He's a
wanting him
lost
on
cause.
the ice. He sucks so bad.
Well,
He's
Like
a
that-
lost cause.
So exactly, he's not a difference maker, but he's also not on the ice.
He played
enough
10:38
to-
last night.
He should be criticized for not being on the ice enough, but he's also not on the ice, so it's hard to criticize only him.
He
where
played
are the other star
10:38.
players?
He played 10:38. He had a shot. He had 3 hits. To his credit, getting 3 hits is.
I mean, he sucks, but
Well,
where's Johansson? Where is the next guy that we're saying, okay,
After Forsberg.
here's the true leadership of this team?
Roman Yossi.
Well,
Arvidsson had
and
one
Yossi-
shot, one
Yossi
block.
drew a penalty, played strong on defense on a power play, and then gives up and has a lazy play because I think he's tired. He's been on the ice for a minute and a half on the shift where he's holding and he draws a penalty. Or it's a great play by Carolina, but again, it's just more of a hustle play there. Like a great example
I
of
know.
the play he can't give up.
I know plus minus is not judged to be a very telling thing anymore, but Yossi was -3 last night.
Well, that's because he plays the whole game for the most part. He plays a lot, but yeah, no, that's my point. Is I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, he was the leading goal scorer for the Preds, even as defenseman for the season.
Yeah.
But we're talking about the lack of production with highly paid forwards, and rightfully so. But Roman Yossi's a guy who's allowed to have big games in the playoffs.
Oh,
too.
absolutely.
Because he's the leading. I mean, just because he's a defenseman, he's the leading goal scorer in the league. He's allowed to make huge plays in the playoffs
Well,
as well.
they need their biggest names to have to carry them. Like we said this the other day before the first game. They need their biggest guys to carry them, and then for one of these other guys that we're talking about, these lesser guys who've emerged this season, if one of them also gets on the bandwagon, that's great. But you can't count on that guy to carry them as they've had in some of these series where
Yeah.
one of those guys emerges and he's like, Rocco Grimaldi carries you for a while. That's terrific. In a series like this, he needs to, if he's 5th on board, terrific if he's active, But somebody like that, Luke Kunin, come on, be the 5th guy, be the 4th guy. But you can't ask somebody like that to be the 1st guy. You got no chance in this series if he's going to be your 1st guy. So Forsberg, build on what you did. Now you need the other guys to show up. Yossi, Johansson, all of those guys. And then you need one of those other guys that we're talking about, these lesser names who've emerged this year, to come too. If you don't get efforts top to bottom like that, you're not going to contend in this series.
And going back to John Hines' post-game comments about,
Defensive on the line.
and I want to say, you could stand. It's like going sideline for a football game is different than watching it in the press box. It is after witnessing it. So you see it differently. But for John Hines post-game to say, we can talk lineup all we want, but we played hard, we played physical. What message does that send? I mean, you just got whipped,
Yeah, you got to talk about.
and
needing
you're going
be
to talk
better.
about playing hard. I mean, that doesn't cut it with me, and we've heard that before. That sounds like Peter Laviolette in year 4.
Well,
it's after his message has run its course.
What it says to me is we don't have good enough players to beat Carolina. We played hard. We did what we're supposed to, but whatever combination of players I put in there,
So what do you
we're
think
not
when you
good
hear
enough
that,
to
like,
beat them.
as a team?
I think it's. I mean,
yeah,
as
you
a
got good
team,
point.
I'm thinking John Hines is saying we're not good enough, and David Poyle hasn't done a good enough job of giving us players we need
But
to
Hutton's
beat
point is
Carolina.
he needs a better message when they're not dead yet to motivate them to.
They're coming off of a great finish to the season, a stretch run that got to the postseason where they're winning at a clip that we never anticipated. He's getting credit for coaching the team back to a postseason run. David Poyle's been given credit for not making moves at the trade deadline and getting a team in the postseason. And the first loss, after losing 5-2, albeit one of them's an empty netter, after losing 5-2, you're like, you know what? We made some lineup changes, but man, we played physical, we played hard, and you can't discredit us on that. You just got whipped. Like I don't know how you come back and say that to that group privately, what he did publicly.
Well,
That doesn't, to me, it doesn't correlate.
more so is his
That's
message.
not what happened in the third period.
More so, I would say, more important is his message today. than what he said yesterday to us is a message today to them.
I would have preferred the message to be, we had a chance and we played terrible in the third period, and if we can correct some things, we can beat this team.
Right.
The message is, we showed we can hang with them, now we got to show we can beat them. And by doing that, we clean up some mistakes in that third period, keep pushing, and we can make this thing happen. I'm with you, Hutton. That it also sounds like we did everything we could and lost 5-2.
There's nothing we can do. We can't do anything more. This is as good as we. And that's just not true.
Well, 7 shots a period over the second and third period, you're not going to beat many teams.
There's a lot of frustration with the lineup changes and all that. I think they have to come back with Tolvanen tomorrow night. I sent Reed, though, a text right before the third period started last night. David Reed's the season ticket holder for the Preds of this group. And I said, they have a chance to steal game 1 because it's 2-2 going to the third. They're in the perfect spot. They got it to the final 20 minutes where you need to go win 1 period, and then you make it a true series. You claim home ice advantage coming back to Bridgestone Arena. And they couldn't do it. That was not the team I thought would take the ice in the third period based on what I saw in the first 2.
Carolina was the team that I thought.
That's a great segue. They were the team that everyone expected them to be to begin.
There was a little bit of order is restored feel to the third period.
There was. And I think being fair to the conversation, Carolina is just better than them.
They're good.
But
they're good.
The Preds are good enough to make this at least a 6-game series. This should not be a situation like we saw, and no one's even referencing the series anymore, but like we saw in the tournament last year against Arizona. We should not see that same type of result.
I think it's probably a 2-1 series, but I think it's probably turns into a 2-1 series Friday night. I don't think it turns into a 1-1
And maybe
series.
that's what irks me the most is the comments last night by Hines sounds like Duchesne after the series against the Coyotes last year. Yeah. There has that same type of feel where, we played tough. Man, get out of here with that. It's game 1.
Well, and if we hear the same from Duchesne after this year,
I don't need to hear from Duchesne.
Why should Duchesne be approached with a microphone?
We don't need to hear from him.
Yeah.
He's doing all of the lack of speaking
with his stick instead of a paper
with his lack of great play.
He's your guy. I'm giving him to Chad. Chad's guy.
Not my guy. Not my guy.
You know I like to give guys away.
Yeah.
Chad he has a list down here to his left for those listening to the show and not watching. He has an enemies list. And
well, we have an enemies list. This is the OutKick 360's enemies list. This was my idea. I think David Reed's idea, actually. Here we go. There it is.
Chris Jericho would claim it's his idea, but look, we like good ideas.
Richard Nixon might claim that he has divinity over it before Chris Jericho even.
Well,
so
I'm sure there are military figures in Europe.
I'm not going to get into the weeds on who came up with the enemies list
surely
first,
had an enemies
but
list.
I'll gladly take full credit for coming up with the enemies list for the first time. We will unveil
Genghis
the first
Khan.
3 members of our enemies list later this week. We all get one contribution to put on the list. We'll get a full discussion on this, but that is must-watch,
a lot of pressure.
must-listen OutKick 360 content. We name names on this show. Individuals, maybe organizations, will go on the enemies list later this week.
This is a lot of pressure.
Maybe corporations.
I don't even have a primary complaint for tomorrow yet. Now I'm expected to come up with an enemy by Friday.
I think we can put our heads together and all come up with the top.
Man, the softening has reached an all-time low.
I mean,
on
I've
this
got
show.
an obvious
I don't
enemy.
even know if I could come up with an enemy by Friday.
I've got
this
an
coming
obvious-
from Paul Kuharski. I don't know if I can come up with an enemy by Friday. It's Tuesday. It's Tuesday.
Paul is softening me when I hear that
Yeah.
right now. Like I don't know I want to finish the show.
As we go to break on OutKick 360.
I'm glad I'm not hardening either of them.
I want to take a nap.
I take pride in that.
I'll take a nap. We'll be back soon.
Tenants can have all kinds of issues, but when Renters Warehouse handles your property management, we take the hit. The refrigerator light bulb burned out. Little Tommy broke a window. There's a critter in the basement that could eat a cat. There's a hot tub in the kitchen. Mary Jane in the closet. Pirate on the roof. Someone had a party. Someone released the Kraken. Indoor roller derby. Indoor compost heap. Unauthorized sublet. Cuban cigars. Food fight. Dirt fight. Skunk fight. Anything else?
VenturesWarehouse.com.
Follow the show on Instagram and Twitter. You can also find us on Facebook, all social media outlets at OutKick360. Instagram, full of stories and photos, videos from behind the scenes. You can interact with us there. And on Twitter at OutKick360. We read tweets live during the show. You can interact with us no matter the time of day at OutKick360. Find us on Twitter and Instagram. OutKick 360 is back. You can follow us on Twitter at OutKick 360, and you can join the show in the YouTube chat on our new YouTube channel. OutKick 360 is where you search us there. And of course, you can always send us a message through Twitter or Facebook.
So we're going to drop the enemies list this Thursday.
The start
on
of,
the
not
show.
the full.
The start of it, yeah. We're gonna,
The definitive
we are going
enemies
to,
list.
yes.
1 through 150.
We will be on from 11 a.m. to 9 p.m. this Thursday as we unveil the full enemies
Number
list.
87.
It is the
One
draft.
more time.
The enemies draft.
This enemies list right here, the enemies of OutKick 360.
Paul, look at Chad's eyes when he does this.
They kind of bug
Look at
out.
those.
I've seen a commercial for a medication that treats some disease where your eyes bug out. Have you seen this?
No.
You know all these
Looks like I'm
medication
being strangled where my eyes are coming out of my skull.
I don't know, but you look
What's
like
on my
somebody
mind?
that could use that medication. This woman is wearing sunglasses. She keeps taking off her sunglasses, and there's another pair of sunglasses out there. It's like a magician's trick.
Paul, I prefer self-medication. But, so we are going to unveil the not top three. Here's the way I look at it.
3.
Let's come up with a consensus of 3 names, organizations to put on the enemies list to start. This is not a ranking because the enemies list needs to evolve there are names from 10 years ago that might be on it, but we don't care as much now. Or maybe you're completely off of it. I don't hold a grudge forever. You're not always going to be on the enemies list, right?
I hold a lot of grudges.
Paul
forever.
holds a grudge forever. But that Paul's mindset in the end of the last segment sparked some people on Twitter to chime in, including Lebowski, who says, back in my day, Paul Kuharski had
His
multiple enemies by lunch. Who the hell is this new guy that can't come up with an enemy? V-Love says,
point taken.
can't effing wait for the enemies list to drop on OutKick 360. That is appointment viewing this Thursday, first 3 names
Not Thursday, Friday.
on the enemies list. I think we should do Thursday.
Paul is out on
might not be
Thursday,
here.
so it needs to be Friday.
Friday, okay.
Paul is correct.
Friday it is. Friday, enemies list drop. Here we go.
Thursday I had to take off to work on my enemies list.
Paul is just such a new man now that he's come to OutKick and OutKick 360 that
Hey.
he has no more enemies, so he has to conjure up some enemies come Thursday.
There are 2 wide receivers that would put Paul on their enemies list. Tajay Sharp, stay in your lane.
Poor guy's out of work.
He's
full-time
been released
rapper now.
again. And a receiver who was out of work, Kalijah Lipscomb, didn't work very well in the open tryout practice that Paul was able to witness, but yet is signed to the active roster yesterday.
I think anybody that's at that practice was stunned.
Right.
That was not.
You're not
just
the only
me.
person I spoke with that said that he did not play well in that practice.
I think it's as simple as this. He's bigger than Rashard Davis. Rashard Davis has had some opportunity here and run his course. Lipscomb's bigger, maybe has opportunity to do some things on special teams that Davis can't do. So he gets his chance. And he's close to the 90th man on the roster. I don't know what they're at. They might be at 87 right now. I don't know that they're at 90. But he's a back-end roster guy right now who gets his chance. But
did he? I mean, for a tryout player, the player you saw was not worthy of getting signed.
He must have done a lot better on Friday and Sunday if he was healthy after he fell out on Saturday. But look, they don't have a lot at wide receiver. I mean, we know the back end wide receiver guys are a bunch of nobodies.
Well, they cut loose a player who had been stuck around for quite a while in Davis.
Well, where was Davis last year when they needed help at the back end? He was already falling out of contention. The year before, they liked Davis. And this is one of those guys that hangs around longer than
I'm not
he
saying
deserves.
that either are difference makers, but it's just it was intriguing that they cut Davis loose for Lipscomb.
Or maybe the Titans looked around and said, hey, he's pretty local. Let's keep him.
And I mentioned yesterday, I'm surprised he hasn't stuck on after his college career and what he did
had a
at
heck of
Vandy.
a college career in the SEC.
But he's
He
jumped
had
around.
a weird ending to that college career.
Yeah, he did.
Where he was taking himself out of games, didn't play against Tennessee.
Very mysterious.
It was not real vocal on the sideline, kind of in the background, and no injuries. Then they said maybe an injury. And
It was kind of like an opt-out before COVID came around and
Yeah, it
gave
was.
guys
Yeah, he opted
opt-out possibilities.
tell you what, Jim Wyatt, who writes for Titans.com, is pumped to have a Vandy guy on that roster to cover. I know he's excited.
Loves Vandy.
The Doors, and look, he produced when he wanted to play in college and on Derek Mason's team.
Look, this does nothing to solve the Titans' wide receiver problem, which is in the 2, 3, 4 range.
But Tajay Sharp, I brought him up. He's the receiver I'm comparing some of the, like Fitzpatrick. Tajay Sharp gets you 25 to 30 catches.
Gets first downs and can
that's
score
a
some
fourth
touchdowns.
receiver, sometimes third receiver option, red
He's
zone
not
target.
an option here.
Yeah, but he's jumping around practice squads now. He was on Kansas City's roster. Kansas City's practice squad to end the year last year. Was with Minnesota and lasted a month with the Vikings last year at most. So, but Sharp is the receiver that some of these guys will be compared to production-wise in the season, where he gets 1 or 2 grabs a game, moves the sticks, and then is a red zone target.
I'd be surprised if Sharp's not on a roster, but if he's not on a roster, what it says is, there have been several seasons of wide receivers flooding into the league that make a guy like that not a commodity.
I actually thought of Tajay Sharp on my drive to Atlanta this weekend, last weekend, because there was a sign as you go through Chattanooga and over the hill towards Atlanta that says "Stay in your lane." They don't want you switching lanes, and that's a great story where PK was told to stay in his lane.
Well, this guy's one of the biggest hypocrites of all time, and I don't think that comment was. I mean, it might have been directed at me. He made it vaguely about the media, like we need to stay in our lane.
directed at you.
Stay in your lane.
We don't know football, so we should stay in our lane. This from a guy who then is a football player who thinks he's a rapper and he's recording rap records. So do you not understand, Tajay, how you're a hypocrite here? I have to stay in my lane. I'm, according to you, not qualified to write about football when my career is football analysis. But you can be a football player and a rapper. So which is your lane? You've got 2 lanes, and I can't have 2 lanes?
He's got
When
4
actually
lanes.
my 2 lanes is 1 lane?
He's in the 8 lane.
So you
down in
can't count.
Atlanta.
You can't count. You can't rap. And as of now, you can't play football.
He's in Isaiah
That was well
Wilson's
said.
lane. Is that what you're saying?
Clip that one up, Reed. Send that one out.
Send it out. Mention him. Mention Tajay Sharp when you send it out.
I can't mention him because I'm blocked.
Well, we just guaranteed OutKick 360 is about to be blocked too.
Anything come of that case across on Demumbrian with him and the offensive lineman from Arkansas?
Oh, that's right.
Sebastian
Trottola.
Trottola.
Sebastian
They beat
Trottola.
the hell out of.
Didn't he get stabbed? Did someone get
I
stabbed?
don't
in that,
know.
or
I
shot?
don't know. I don't know.
feel like someone was
The
stabbed.
accusation was that there was a hit put out on someone.
There was a stabbing, I think, in that. You know, I would kind of consider Tajay Sharp just a more disciplined Isaiah Wilson.
I don't know if he was in
when
his
it
lane
comes
then
to his
either.
rap
I
and
don't-
football skills.
Is that staying in your
He's a
lane
more
when you're
disciplined
fighting?
Isaiah Wilson.
Trottola put up for somebody, and it was Tajay Sharp who was involved in that, right?
Yeah.
I want to say someone was stabbed.
I have to be honest. I stopped following
I
the
gotta
case.
find this.
I
Hold on.
stopped
I'll find
following
it
the
quickly.
case after they were both no longer on the Titan.
Chad, I want to say someone was stabbed.
I really think someone was stabbed. Sebastian Trottola stabbing does come up.
Wow.
Oh, here we go.
Okay. We'll have that and more to wrap up the show. Go ahead, Chad.
It was a shooting. He was grazed by a bullet. Damn it.
Come on.
This close.
Shooting, stabbing.
This close. As
Those
close
are
as a
sub-
blade is to a bullet, I was that
Those
close.
are
to the story.
substantially different things. We need to be accurate here. It's important.
Or maybe this is the second story.
Yeah.
Second shooter, second spinner.
No, I think he was involved in 2
Second
different things.
stabber?
Trottola didn't last that long.
Never
after
mind.
this.
Yes, this was outside of Barton Fayetteville, Arkansas, where he was shot.
Was
That's
it a
when he
tin
was
roof?
officially
Was there a
shot.
tin roof there?
I just remember this being a fight at Tin Roof.
Yeah, here you go. Trottola and Tajay Sharp were accused of assaulting a man in April outside of, I believe, Tin Roof in Nashville.
Yeah, it was behind that section
Yeah.
of Demumbrian. They beat the hell out of him.
Hard to believe this was 5 years ago. 5 years ago.
So they were
This
acting in
took place.
self-defense. Just want to get the record
We
straight.
really wanted the quote to
He
be
was shot later.
"Stay your lane."
Grazed
We
by a
wanted-
bullet.
but it turned out it was "Stay in your lane." We
Guys,
went
just
and
real
looked at it.
unlucky. It's like the puck luck of Matt Duchene. That's the bullet luck of Sebastian Trottola.
Chad, you would say switch lanes and
Freely?
go to Renter's Warehouse.
Switch lanes into making money, and that's what you can do with Renter's Warehouse, and you can do it with an upfront program that is incredible, and it's helping out a lot of people right now. Do you own rental property and need cash? Are you worried about receiving rent on time? Are you considering updating your rental property or investing in a larger portfolio? Get the most out of your real estate investment by receiving a full year of rent paid up front. That's up to a year of rent payments in your pocket right now by giving you your money up front. Renter's Warehouse, they're helping you minimize risk and providing financial flexibility so you can build long-term wealth. The upfront rent program available for a limited time only. You can call Renters Warehouse Nashville. You can see the number on your screen. It is 615-398-9550 or visit rwnashville.com. That's rwnashville.com. Do it the Renters Warehouse way and get tomorrow's rent today.
We are back in 60 seconds on OutKick 360.
When you have people renting your house, you may get a call about a certain plumbing issue. Someone has dropped the kids off at the pool, sunk a sausage, cooked a meatloaf in the porcelain saucepan, downloaded a brown load. And now they need someone to plunge in and clear the air. So, would you rather that call go to you or to Renter's Warehouse? Thought so. Remember, when the call's about number 2, you'll be glad you work with number 1.
VenturesWarehouse.com.
The 360 Masters is back. Hey, it's Hutton. Hope you'll join us on June 10th for a one-of-a-kind event with OutKick 360, other great writers and producers from OutKick, including David Reed, who will throw his back out again for the second annual event. Thursday, June 10th, you can sign up on Eventbrite or just follow us on Twitter at OutKick 360. 100% of the proceeds will go to the Leukemia and Lymphoma Society of Tennessee. Hope you'll join us for a great event. Get your team today and join us at Topgolf Nashville for the 360 Masters. We wrap up the show with the way we started. Happy birthday to Evie Withrow. Where are you going tonight? Can we guess?
Yes, you can guess. We gave her the option of she gets to pick the restaurant she gets to go to on her birthday. And you guys can guess which restaurant she picked.
Wendy's.
No.
So you get pizza once a week, right?
Sunday night is pizza night, yes?
Okay. I'm going with just a straight Domino's / local pizza place. I don't know what you guys go to all the time.
Good guess, but Paul was closer. Culver's.
Oh, I had Culver's in my head.
Culver's is where she decided to go. It's so funny because you think birthday dinner, adults are going obviously big and nice. And her choice was
Culver's has like this pistachio flavored ice cream that we saw driving by that we both were very intrigued by, Claire and I.
Check that out tonight.
Would you guys be interested in pistachio
They have
flavor?
good. They have good ice cream at
was a
Culver's.
pistachio ice
They have
cream.
like a take on the Dairy Queen Blizzard. I think it's called a concrete
Yeah,
mixer.
it's good.
Yeah.
And it's like that, or a McFlurry or whatever it is at McDonald's. It's very good. Very good.
It's custard as opposed to ice cream, I believe.
David Reed is hearing this, and his blood sugar is rising
Yes.
as he just listens to this conversation on the show.
David
yourself a
Reed's
check.
blood pressure is going so high. Evie's blood pressure or blood sugar is rising just because of David Reed.
I hope she has a big time.
She'll have fun.
Show bet tonight for FanDuel.com/OK360. Anything we want to go
You got
with?
one?
I barely missed a bet last night. I picked the Hurricanes to win and Aho to score a goal. And Jordan Stahl was another option that actually had better odds for that, where I would have made more money, but I went with him and got one half of him, not the other half.
So the NBA play-in games begin tonight.
I'll go NBA playing game. I would go Lakers on the money line. Would be my
Lakers
bet.
money line. They are -210 against Golden
that's not
State.
great.
Chelsea at 2:15 will beat Leicester City in
There
a
you go.
crucial EPL match.
Show bet will not be
Pulisic
soccer.
will
So
score.
Hutton, you get the tiebreaker.
Who's on the mound for the Braves? They got to win sometime.
I don't know who's pitching tonight. Everybody's breaking their hand. Max Fried to leave the game because his hand cramped up. His pitching hand.
I'm not sure who's on. I can't even find the
Pitching
game. They may have taken it off the
cramp.
board for some reason. Yankees, Paul.
Who are they throwing?
I don't know. Can't find them either right now.
Give me
Oh, here they
Lakers.
go.
Give me Lakers money line. I'd also take the Celtics. That's tonight.
What about the
actually.
Grizz?
Tonight's the East, tomorrow's the West.
Grizz against the Spurs for the 9-10.
And that's tomorrow night. So
it is?
tonight's the East. Pretty sure.
That's at the top of the list.
I will go Celtics over Wizards on the money line without knowing the
All right, so
odds.
we're going Celtics and Lakers, the favorites.
Lakers tomorrow night, Celtics tonight.
All right, let's go.
Yep, let's do it.
Let's load up. Load up.
Parlaying it?
FanDuel.com.
Parlaying it?
You gotta wait delayed gratification for tomorrow.
OK 360.
I'll go do it now. We'll do it live. We'll do it live.
Yep.
I'm out.
We'll
do it live.
We'll give it a try here. FanDuel.com/OK360.
Go
Have
Knicks.
a great afternoon. Hit us up on Twitter at OutKick360. And thanks for subscribing to the YouTube channel. You can do, if you subscribe to OutKick360 on YouTube, you get 30% off the OutKick VIP membership, OutKick.com/OK360VIP. That's where you can find us there. Appreciate everybody. Chat with you tomorrow right here across the OutKick network.
Stay in your lane as you don't block the box and you do lock the locks.